Being able to touch people and give them more hope, give them more clarity and more direction in their careers does light me up. I created a 10-step pivot program quite a few years ago, and it was so successful. And we were getting calls from every leader that went through it saying, can you coach my wife, my husband, my son, my daughter? And we had a waiting list almost a year long. And so I said, you know what? I need to write a book so that people who don't have access or the means to coaching can have access to this.
Welcome to the Seismic Shift podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Johnston. This is a podcast where we look at the seismic shifts that are shaking up the way that we work and the way that we live. And I'm so thrilled to tell you that it just made it into the top 10% of all podcasts worldwide. And drum roll, please. We have an amazing guest today who I just adore. She is a beautiful human. She's beautiful inside and out. And she happens to be a national best-selling author and a coach for career changes and what's next. So if there's anybody out there listening, and we know that you're there, that is thinking about what's next for me, I might want to try something new. You could be a brand new college graduate. I teach a bunch of them. You could be thinking you're in middle management, wanting to go to the next step. You could be an executive saying, this isn't fulfilling. What should I do now? So we have Mary Olson-Menzel to talk about her book, What Lights You Up. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here.
So my first question for you, Mary, is you're such an expert, not only as an executive coach, advisor, and mentor, former recruiter, former sales executive with NBC, all kinds of, so you've had lots of opportunities to pivot in your career, right? I want to know what the seismic shifts are that you're seeing right now in the workplace that are shaking things up.
Oh gosh. I mean, the whole world is shifting in the most incredible way, and it's kind of scary sometimes too. But what we're seeing is, 5 years ago, the way we did work shifted, right? We went virtual, then we went hybrid. Now some of us are back to work, but how do we create those connections that you talk about, no matter where we are in the workplace? And how do we stay also excited and lit up by our work? Those are the big things that are shifting that I think people are asking a lot of questions about.
Absolutely. I agree. I am a little bit torn about this back to work initiative. Actually, I'm not torn at all. I know how I feel about the back to work initiative. I don't think that we should demand that our people come into the office unless they have to, unless you're a nurse at a hospital, a doctor at a hospital. I just think flexibility is key now for this younger generation, right? So what are you seeing out there for new grads? What does the landscape of work look like now?
Well, it's tougher than ever for new grads. The unemployment rate for the US population is about 4.3% as of August. It's 5.3% for new grads. So these grads are having to do extra work, extra networking, and really put in that extra effort to even get a job. And then from there, we want to make sure that they're not just working remote so that they can learn from all of us as leaders too. So the hybrid tends to work best for new grads.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I just think people want autonomy, flexibility. People want more out of their work-family balance, more of a full life. Okay, so I'm dying to ask you, since you titled your book, What Lights You Up, and you're so good mentoring and coaching people to try to figure out their passion and find something that lights them up, I want to know what lights you up, Mary.
Being here with you, Michelle, lights me up. But really, truly, being able to touch people and give them more hope, give them more clarity and more direction in their careers does light me up.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and that's exactly what I wanted to know. What prompted you to write this? Why now? Why this time? Why this topic?
Yes, so I created a 10-step pivot program quite a few years ago, and it was so successful. And we were getting calls from every leader that went through it saying, can you coach my wife, my husband, my son, my daughter? And we had a waiting list almost a year long. And so I said, you know what? I need to write a book so that people who don't have access or the means to coaching can have access to this.
Oh, and I want to dive in. What's really cool, and you listeners already know that season 4, what we're focusing on are all of the seismic shifts that we're seeing that lean in with heart and humanity. Right. And so when Mary and I started talking, we're part of many groups. We get to see each other. She lives in New York. I'm in New Orleans, and we Zoom and we connect. Like, we are so aligned, right, in our mission. And so when we were talking about her 10 steps, and then we were talking about my 7 shifts that are necessary, there's so much overlap with connection and focusing on yourself, right? And so could you bring us all through those 10 steps?
Yes, yes. So the first step is you go very, very deep. We go very deep with our clients so that we can understand who they are as human beings, Michelle, not just as executives or, workers. We want to know who they are, the whole human element, the 360 degree of who they are, so that we can better guide them. So after we go really deep, we pop out for the nuts and bolts. We look at the job search toolbox. What do they have in there? How is their LinkedIn profile? How is their resume? What is their professional brand looking like? And from there, we take them through their elevator pitch and through interview training so that they are ready to tackle any kind of conversation that they do, whether it's truly in an elevator, at a cocktail party, or in an in-depth interview. From there, we open up our networks for them, and we also help them get very intentional about where they want to go. A lot of job seekers just sit back and look at Indeed and LinkedIn and see where the job openings are. We say, no way, get aspirational, get intentional, create a target list that we call the 3 Ps, which is your usual prospects, your pivots, and your passions, and put companies that fall into one of those 3 categories onto your aspirational target job list, target business list. And then from there, we create opportunities for interviews. We coach them through the interviews. We coach them through the negotiation.
Can we pause right there and talk
Yes.
about the interview?
Yes.
I love it that you're prepping people for their elevators pitch or whatever, for their interview. Why hire you? What is because I've been out of it for a while. For years, I taught my students all of those skills in a freshman level course, business communication. I haven't taught that in years. So I'm assuming that things have changed. How do you coach the interview now? What do you tell them? How to really excel in an interview?
Right. They have to be able to tell their story. And their story is what sets them apart. Michelle, I always say our resume tells me who you are and what you've done, but your stories are what sells me on who you are and makes me want to hire you.
That is so true. So I remember I used to say, and we've been working, I teach leadership now, and these are graduating seniors, and I teach right after our interview today, and we've been working on their stories, and we've gone on connection walks through the campus, and we're like, where are you from? Where are you in birth order? Like, what was your childhood like? What was your high school like? Where are you now? Like, who are you as a person? What differentiates you? And then I tell them that, okay, but this is not what you say in your interview. This is for you discovering who you are. And now you got to figure out what they're looking for and sell. But you also want to differentiate yourself, right?
Yes. What makes you unique? What is your superpower that you're going to bring to the next organization that you work for? And that's what employers want to know. They want to know how you're going to react to things, how you're going to handle situations. And so we train them also in behavioral interviewing, which is tried and true. It's been around for a long time, but it really works. So that's really helpful. And we help them tell their story in a very chronological way, because as you and I both know, the brain is wired for stories. So we want to hear a beginning, and we want to hear what brings them to where they are today.
I love that. And behavioral interviewing, for those who don't know, is it still like, tell me about a time when you participated in a team project where you really struggled, but you emerged as a leader, something like that?
Yes, exactly. It's situational interviewing. So they understand what has happened in your past and how you've handled it, so that they can kind of really glean into, okay, how are you going to handle real life situations when you get here?
So what, again, just focusing on this interview stage right now, out of your 10 steps, what are you telling new grads that are just coming in this 5% unemployment market of how to jump off a page? Because there's lots of bots, right? AI that are going through all the resumes and they're not able to talk to a real person. They don't make it to an interview, but say you actually make it to an interview, right? What really sets yourself apart now for a new college grad?
Well, that is, as you talk about it, Michelle, shifting in your perspective, right? It is so much about the power of connection. And what I'm telling new grads is, all right, if your light is your superpower, if your unique qualities are your superpower, your network is the superhighway that's going to get you your next job. And new grads struggle with this because they say, well, I'm a new grad. I don't have a network. And I say, yes, you do. You have your professors, you have your classmates, you have hopefully friends of your parents or, people in your neighborhood, but also you have your alumni group. Because I always tell them too, if somebody reaches out to me from somewhere that I went to college or graduate school, I am so likely to help them because I want to help lift up that people from that university.
That is so true. Where did you go, Mary?
Undergrad, I went to Illinois State, and graduate school, I went to Northwestern.
Nice. I feel like all of the famous newscasters went to Northwestern.
There were a lot. That's very media heavy. There's a couple majors that are very media heavy.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is, you're so right. When I think about Auburn, that's where I went for my undergraduate. If I ever see anybody in an airport with an Auburn sweatshirt on, we still say War Eagle to each other. Like there's a real, right, connection and you want to help each other. I got my PhD at LSU. I feel very attached to LSU. And then of course I've been teaching at Loyola for over 25 years, and Loyola is a small liberal arts school. We're in the College of Business. And there's 4 Loyolas. There's Loyola Chicago, where you're from, Chicago, Loyola New Orleans. That the Jesuits had a strategic plan. They wanted a Loyola University, north, south, east, west. So Loyola Chicago, Loyola New Orleans, Loyola Maryland, Loyola Marymount out in California. So yeah, utilize that network. Utilize it. Really is, you hate to say it, but so much of it is who you know, because they're going to want to help you. If they know you, they will want to help you. And especially in this age of AI, I cannot tell you how many, because my daughter's in college, how many of her friends are saying, I don't understand. I'm an A student from a private, really great university. I haven't even made it to the interview stage because AI is sorting through the resumes and I didn't put whatever word I'm supposed to put.
It is tough. And I said, I feel for these kids. That's why the power of your network really matters. And there is something that I tell people at all levels, from new grad to executives. It's a little trick that I call the LinkedIn hour of power. And what it is you spend an hour of your day, can be in the morning with your morning cup of coffee or tea. It can be in the evening with your evening beverage, but to dedicate an hour a day to networking and to searching through LinkedIn for people who inspire you, companies who inspire you, and then starting to follow them so that they show up in your news feed and you can start to get notifications of what's happening with those organizations.
I think I'm going to do that with my students this afternoon.
Yes.
So get on LinkedIn and start following those companies, because we've already done the exercise of values, and pick a company that aligns with your values, pick a company that does not align with your values, right? What's your dream job? Who's your dream leader? And so now find them on LinkedIn, follow them, and start to get to know some of their leaders, their thought leaders, their voices, what they're about.
And then see who is connected to these leaders from your alumni network, from your professor network, and from your classmates.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. Was that step 3 where I interrupted you?
Oh gosh, we were probably at step 5 now, but either way, what ends up happening towards the, tail end of the 10 steps is basically, once our clients have started interviewing, we're there as a resource for them for whatever they need. And so that is, continual interview training, continual research, continual connections, and then helping them negotiate an offer, helping them create a win-win situation when they walk in. And then hopefully helping them onboard for massive success.
Oh, I love this. Let's pause and let's kind of go deeper with negotiation. So I'll never forget my first job when the dean offered me a full-time professor and he gave me the salary and I was like, yes. And I just took it and I didn't negotiate at all. And then, years later, I'm like, okay, anytime somebody gives me an offer, I negotiate. What is your piece of advice when it comes to negotiating?
Yes, well, you have to really it's a tricky, you have to be careful. And it's a fine line about what you can ask for, but you can always say to a potential future employer, well, I would be remiss if I didn't try to negotiate a little bit. So do you have room to move in any of these areas, in the salary, in the signing bonus, in potentially the, bonus situation or commission situation? And if they don't, then you know where you stand, because many companies will make you their best offer, but many have a little wiggle room. And sometimes that wiggle room just happens from a sign-on bonus or from even a couple extra weeks of vacation. So kind of know your audience before you go into, negotiate, but never act like you can't. Just always be very, very grateful for the offer in the first place.
Oh, I love it. And I love how you said I would be remiss if I didn't ask if there's a little bit more. How did you say that? Wiggle room? How did you say that? I would be
Yeah, a
remiss
little
if I
bit more
didn't ask
room.
a
Mhm.
little bit more room, whether it's in the base salary, the bonus, some of the benefits, vacation. I think that's harder for a brand new graduate because they're thrilled to get a job, right?
Yes.
But as you get up and you're getting promoted or you're leaving one company, going to another, that's when you really need to say, I've studied the market. Thank you so much for your offer. I think that I'm worth more. Could we talk about an increase in salary or an increase in bonus? I feel like that is where, when you have the experience and the track record, you should absolutely stick up for yourself.
100%, but always do it with gratitude. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. And if you want to work there, I can't wait to come work for you. But is there any room for negotiation? Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. And so then the onboarding, a lot of people forget about that because they're like, "Oh my God, I got the job and I start next week." And then they just forget. Talk to us about the onboarding process.
The onboarding is crucial, Michelle. When you think about the first 30, 60, 90 days, that's what solidifies the connection between the company and the employee. And if there isn't a proper onboarding process, that can be lost because companies spend so much money courting, recruiting, and getting them in the door that they can't afford to let go of the onboarding after that. So really, truly making sure that you're getting people excited about being there from day one when they sit in that seat or get onto that screen, and making it very clear what your expectations are, but also introducing them to as many people as you can so that they can get a feel for the culture once they're there, and also make new friends. We all need friends at work.
Yeah, big time. I'm sitting here thinking that, okay, so hypothetically, say my daughter gets into a company and as a brand new college grad and she's doing social media. And then she realizes in the first 30, 60, 90 days, oh my gosh, this is not my strength. I don't love it. I think I look over at the project managers and I think I'd rather do project manager. How do you coach somebody young into their career if they realize this is not a good fit for me, this position?
Yes, and it happens more often than we think, Michelle. We've seen it over and over. And I would say first, dig in and learn as much as you can. Become a sponge in that social media space, but also start to look around and see if you can shadow the project managers. See if you can spend time with those project managers in this situation that we brought up, right? But also, at some point saying to your boss, I'm really so grateful to be here once again, but I'm realizing that my skills might be better used in the project management space. So how can we create a plan to help get me there? So I think employers get really frustrated when a new grad gets in and they're like, oh, I want to get promoted right away, or I want to move up right away. So it's about patience and a plan.
Yeah. And speaking of P's, patience and a plan, I think anybody, whether you're a new graduate, whether you're mid-career or in an executive position, we all want purpose and we want passion. So
Yeah.
you want to, believe in what you're doing, believe in the company, believe in the person. And then you want to like feel like, okay, like I really enjoy doing this. I'm good at this. I mean, that, and then on top of that, it's not a P. We need to be valued and
Mhm.
for us to continue to have motivation and feel passion about going and doing the work every day. You got to feel valued.
Absolutely. And appreciate it. Right. You want, once again,
Yes.
we always come back to that gratitude, right? When you can be grateful for that role, but you also want your boss to really appreciate the work you're doing. And the purpose thing, Michelle, that's, we talk about that as people are moving later in their careers into planning for retirement. So many people retire and they lose that sense of purpose. So, we're looking at both ends of the spectrum, from the grads to the retirees. How do we keep that sense of purpose? Because that's your why. That's what's going to keep you going.
Gosh, you're so right. And anybody who's listening, there are so many different pivots in life. And don't think I was just interviewing Claude Silver, of the chief heart officer of Vayner Media. And when the .com crash happened, she was out in San Francisco in 99, 2000, lost her job. And so she taught surfing for a number of years and loved it. And then she went back, into media, and then moved to New York, and it all worked out. So I don't want people to think that if it's not a linear trajectory, or if they do something really different, like surfing, that it's going to derail their career. Not at all, right?
Not at all. Every experience that we have is the perfect situation to set us up for success later. And there's IBM, which is one of our clients, has this wonderful way of saying it, the squiggly career path. Nobody's career path is like straight up, right? Nobody follows that trajectory where you graduate from undergrad and you go straight up the line to CEO. We all have bumps in the road. We all have twists and turns and all kinds of different things that happen to us. And it's up to us to embrace and own every single twist and turn and bump in the road, because it creates the resilience and the character that makes us who we are today and helps us be a better employee.
Gosh, you're so right. When I'm thinking about one of my favorite CEOs that I coach and work with, he is a CEO of a healthcare organization, and he started as a lawyer, as a partner in a partnership track in a law firm. And never in a million years would he have thought that he would become a CEO of a healthcare company, right? But he just took the opportunities that came to him, and he said he wouldn't change anything. He took risks and he did things, that were different and that seemed fun and interesting. And here he is today. So you're absolutely right. You shouldn't just think it has to be one way. And the good news about the job market these days is people are okay with, believe it or not, with you jumping around, not every 6 months or so, but it used to be, oh my goodness, that was a huge red flag if you left after a year. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, now if you leave after a year because it wasn't a good fit, as long as you can, frame and explain the why, it doesn't look as bad these days. Is that true?
Absolutely. It's so much more acceptable. Gone are the days of, 25 years and you get the gold watch at the end. Really, truly, the average, career kind of trajectory is you stay for 2 to 5 years and then you're off to something else.
Okay, good. And so I'm so curious, you've been quite successful as a coach and now as a best-selling author, and running your own company and speaking. What do you think is your superpower, and how have you become so successful?
Oof, gosh, great question. I think part of my superpower is knowing when to pivot. I have had several pivots in my career, and all of them have led me, obviously, to where I am today. But I think also understanding and knowing to understand that feeling. So you and I were in a situation in Washington, D.C., where we heard our friend Tasha Eurich speak, and she talked about the resilience ceiling. And at that point, that was May, probably, right, Michelle? I had been through launching the best-selling book, losing my mother, really diving into building the business in a different way because I was seeing that it wasn't lighting me up the way that we were doing it. And so, everything, I was burned out. And you and I looked at each other and I said, wow, I am burned out. I am really burned out. So I need to actually start to pivot again and really look at how do I continue to put my own oxygen mask on first so that I can better serve my clients and everyone around me, my family, all of that. So I would highly recommend when you start to feel your light dimming, to figure out how you can turn it back on. And some of that is with self-care, as we know.
Gosh, I'll never forget that. Yeah, to all of our listeners, Mary and I were in DC at this super cool meeting called Wild. And we were both at the same table. We were sitting there because we know each other and love each other. And we're sitting next to each other, listening to Tasha Eurich, this keynote speaker, talking about resilience. And she asked us to share something about where we are, what our stress level is. And sometimes it's just giving yourself permission to talk about it to somebody who you trust. And Mary looked at me and said, I think I just hit rock bottom as far as energy level. She was at the height of her career. She was as high up as you can get. And yet inside she said, I'm empty. I think I've left it all on the playing field. I got to do something about this. And I think just saying it out loud and having that revelation and me saying, oh my gosh, I've been there. I know it. Yes. Now you have to kind of take care of yourself because you were just taking care, giving. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
So what changes have you made now? Because you seem to, because that was May. Yeah. What changes did you make?
Oh gosh, I feel a world of difference too. And I think what it was understanding that I could take my foot off the gas, that I had laid the groundwork in 2024 and the first half of 2025 for success. But it was time to just kind of let go and let it unfold. And so it was perfect timing, obviously, because we went right into the summer from there and the kids are home, off school, all of that. And so I was able to kind of exhale a bit into the warmer weather in the summer and just say, you know what? I have done everything to put all the right pieces in place. Now let's let it unfold. And it did. I mean, within a month, it was like I allowed myself to breathe and then it started really coming at a perfect pace and the right kind of clients without pushing.
Oh my gosh. You had mentioned IBM. So you not only work with individuals who need help with their next, but tell me, you work with big companies as well. In what way?
We do. So we work with the top leaders at a lot of big companies to help them elevate their leadership signature, is what we call it. So we help them create their own unique leadership signature where they can lean into their own natural gifts and they don't have to be somebody else or somebody who they think they have to be. We really press them to own their own natural gifts and then allow their teams to as well. So a lot of the coaching we do kind of creates this ripple effect where we work with a leader and then the leader says, "Ooh, yeah, come in and work with my team now." And then continue to just elevate and teach these leaders how to be coaches in the workplace. Everybody needs a coach, thankfully. Right, Michelle?
That is so true. So that is wild, Mary, because I've always thought of you as a career coach, and that's where you've had tremendous success and you helping people find their next. And it didn't even occur to me that these same skills or these skills that you're helping somebody find their next promotion or next career, next company, next job can be translated to leaders and their brands and their signature style and leaning into their superpowers and allowing them to shine, right? And in the way that they lead and that by heart and by caring. And we are definitely speaking the same language.
We sure are. I mean, and that was what struck me the first time we met. I thought, okay, this is somebody who really, really wants to help these leaders elevate who they are and what they're doing in their companies and in the world, because then that creates a ripple effect for all of us.
Yeah, we had talked on our call this week about, I have 7 shifts in my new book, a shift in perspective, a shift in energy, a shift in priorities. And you said, oh my gosh, that's what I work on too. Why don't we end with how you see connection plays into this, or energy, or any of the things that we overlapped on?
Yes, well, I think that they all play into it. And I love your book, Michelle. I think it's going to be another bestseller. But I also think that, these shifts are so subtle sometimes. And when we talk about the shift in energy, think about that person who walks into a room and lights up the room, right? That's somebody who is not pouring from an empty cup, first of all. But so they've also shifted not only their energy, but their priorities, so that they're taking care of themselves so that they can take better care of their people. And then that bright light just shows. And then we lead to the connection, right? And the connection is what humanity is all about. We yearn for connection. And that's why, back to the beginning of our conversation with the remote workforce, we need that connection with each other so that we can help each other thrive and really embrace the abundance mindset of, when one rises, we all rise.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's a great way to end this segment. When one rises, we all rise. And think about somebody when they walk into the room where their energy lights you up and elevates the room. We all want that energy, particularly if you're in a leadership position, and you can only have that energy when you take care of yourself. And that's the biggest lesson I've learned about connection is you can only be really good at connection if you take time to disconnect.
Yes. Yes.
And that just sounded so counterintuitive when I realized, like, wait, and that's why I ended up being empty last summer, just like you were.
Mm-hmm. We all go there. And I'll just say this for your listeners as well. Don't feel discouraged if you get to that point. We all get there. If Michelle can get there and I can get there, it's okay. We all have those moments where our lights dim a little bit, and it's up to us to figure out, okay, how do I tap into the things that will help me get back to the top of my game?
Oh gosh, you're so right. Again, it's all so wild about connection is that, you would think if we're both talking about how important it is to connect, and yet if you don't prioritize yourself first, rather than just connecting with everybody else, you're not going to have that light. You're not going to be able to light up a room. You're not going to be able to bring your best. So yes, the shift in prioritization is prioritize yourself first, self-care, know yourself, know your superpowers, your story, what differentiates you, so that then you can be a great teammate, you can be a great leader, and you can light up every room that you enter.
Amen. Yes, absolutely, Michelle.
Amen, sister. Oh, that's beautiful. Everyone. So, Mary, where should they go to buy your book?
They can go wherever books are sold, but they can also go straight to maryolsonmenzel.com, which is maryolsonmenzel.com. And they get a free workbook that they can download so that they can start working on themselves even before the book arrives in their mailbox.
Oh, I love that. And thank you all so much for tuning in. It was such an honor to be able to talk with you, Mary, and hear about your expertise and the 10 steps. And I totally can understand why you are super successful. You have a beautiful superpower of connection and wanting to help. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Well, thank you all for tuning in to the Seismic Shift podcast. And thank you for the generous support of Loyola University, New Orleans, with the Seismic Shift podcast. Thank you for joining us on the Seismic Shift. And before you go, can I ask one favor of you? Do you mind sharing today's episode with a leader you know? The power of this conversation is found in your using it and sharing it to create real connection in your life. Lastly, I'd like to thank Loyola University New Orleans for helping bring this content to life.